I'm talking with Graham Haycroft about nurses. Now, Graham, what is there still any repercussions going on with the Paul Lucas Queensland Health payroll debacle?
Oh, there's still cases out there, and the system has. There's still issues going on. We've actually got a nurse who 4 weeks before she retired, she was advised that the system had over-allocated holiday leave to her. And we're just in the process of dealing with that. And this is one of the few times actually where you write to the minister. So I've written to the minister. Well, if it was money, someone's been overpaid, I get it, you pay the money back. But when you've been allocated extra leave and you've taken it, leave's not, money is fungible, as my friend Judy Sloan would say. Leave is not fungible. It only translates to cash. So, translate to cash at certain specific times. In other words, when the parties agree, it should. Yes, there are still a lot of payroll issues, and we're actually showing our Nurses Professional Association of Queensland are actually getting involved in doing this stuff, whereas the QNU have just all brushed it off because they don't want to, they fund the government, so why would they don't want the government to be seen in a poor light, and they want the Labor government to stay there, so they're not going to raise those issues. So my view is, having run a payroll system with employing 2,000 people, the Queensland health system is far too complicated to ever be able to be run properly. You can't have 28 or something variables per person per cycle and expect any system to run it. They've got to go back and simplify the system, and you've got to decentralise the system. And so there's 200 units in Queensland Health. My view is that they should let them go out to 200 units and let each one of those places run themselves with a board and run their own payroll.
The local hospital boards, they're still in place, are they?
No, they got rid of them and they replaced them with regional boards.
Okay.
But they're
semi-centralised.
It's like you're half pregnant. No, you better go straight out to the 200 health institutions in Queensland Health and let local boards run them all, and then be responsible. And if you simplify the employment arrangements, there's no reason why the nurses there can't make their own arrangements with the management. But whilst ever they're so complicated, that can't happen. And this has been a bit of a conspiracy, if you like, of the QNU HR people with the Queensland Health HR people to keep it complicated. So it all has to be centralised. Yeah.
Now, you wrote a chapter in this book edited by Professor Jim Allen, Making Australia Right. The chapter's called Follow the Money.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, when dealing with unions, you need to understand how they make their money and the fact that they are only about making money. And there are, in my view...
They're a business. We don't resent that. They should do what their customers pay them to do, and they should make a profit.
Well, they claim they're not. But if we're going to deal with them, we need to understand how the money works. And there's 4 of them, and I'll try to quickly cover the sort of the 4 broad areas and how the money works in each one. And they're all different. Judy Sloan wrote about this last week, that there are 4 different areas. Even if you say we must do something about the unions, which ones? There's 4 different groups. So that's the first group is what I call teachers, nurses, the blue-collar professionals, who join unions because it is a requirement for them to have professional indemnity insurance. Right? The solution there is what we're doing. Set up competition. We provide professional indemnity insurance like the other unions do. You can do it for half price. That then changes that equation. Then you've got the SDA, which is the retail, Coles, Woolworths, McDonald's, KFC.
Hospitality?
Some of the hospitality, but mainly SDA, and in that group you'd put the Transport Workers Union, TWU. They deal with large employers, and this is how the deal works. Because they're a registered union, they and they alone have the capacity to reduce the effect of the award. In other words, they can reduce award conditions. Now, if I'm the SDA and you're Coles, for instance, and I go to you and say, look, I can do a deal with you and I can actually reduce the unit labour costs with all your employees across the board.
I'm interested in that.
You would be. But you'd also be interested, I'm interested in something too. I'll do it for you on the condition that you give me all your workers as members. But you want another condition. You would say, well,
That doesn't cost me anything and it helps you. So
well, the other thing you want,
Coles would be interested in that.
well, the other thing you want is you don't want my deal to be done with the IGA or the smaller competitors. So that's how the deal works with the big guys.
I want their labour costs to be higher.
Correct.
Because that gives them less margin, less ability to compete with me.
And since I'm a union, I then have a vested interest in making sure that the award is particularly inflexible and impractical. Because the higher it is, the better leverage I have with you to get money. I don't want members with the small grocery shops. Okay. It's too
So
hard
now
to get.
they're actually profiting in this scenario that you've posed. They're actually profiting by not looking after their customers.
Well, they look after some.
Working against their customers.
Oh, they work against their members' interests. But their clients are not their members because their members don't join voluntarily. Their customers are Coles, Woolworths, KFC.
Which isn't what their members would think.
Well, you've got to tell the members some bullshit, but that's the reality is the money comes because Coles say, we're going to deal with you, we're going to make sure that our members join. So that's group 2. Now, this big money, the SDA gets like $70 million a year. Now, if that condition wasn't imposed, if the SDA suddenly had no capacity to do deals that no one else can do, their income would drop down to probably $1 million a year, if that. They'd be lucky they wouldn't even exist. So that's and the Transport Workers Union and the other larger unions that deal with large employees. That's essentially their shtick, if you like. That's how they make their money. And the way you stop it is you either remove the ability of the SDA and Transport Workers Union and the AWU, because they're in that group as well. You either remove their ability to do that, or you allow everybody to do it. One or the other. I would suggest that you probably allow everybody to do it.
Yeah, so they get representation without monopolisation.
Yeah. But of course, if you want to make money, that's no good. You know, the whole idea is to have a monopoly so you can make money. So that's group 2. Group 3 is our friends in the building industry. Now, the way they make money, the way the CMFEU makes money, is they do 2 things in effect. They generate huge extra impost costs. And so how can that help? But they've also, their role is the agent of the big guys, is to make sure that Lendlease and Simec and these other big builders don't have any medium-sized competitors. And the large contractors like Lendlease in this group, they control all the industry associations. Right? And the industry association's role is to make sure that everyone has the same lousy deal that Lendlease has got. And then you have the government happily giving tenders to these big groups in the knowledge that at least 30% actually is added on. And the argument, we'd never get anything built if we said no. The solution there is simply for government to say, we're not going to do that anymore. If you've got these conditions where you got all the add-ons, no labour hire allowed, and you can't do this, and you must have RDOs and data, all that sort of rubbish, you can't tender. The major contractors would sort out a deal within 6 months with the CMFEU. It's that simple. And you don't need any government boards or construction authorities. You just need politicians with balls. Now, the 4th group is like the public sector unions. And the reason most people join them these days is because if they don't, they're not going to get promoted. Kevin Rudd really turned that into a bit of an art form. And there's a lot of money in there. And I would think the way to deal with that is for the governments to decentralise their EBA process. So instead of having a centralised EBA anywhere, you'd farm it out to the departments and let them make their own arrangements. And in practice, probably other unions that's come up, or they would be non-union agreements. So there's your 4 groups. There's a lot of money. There's something like 200, I think there's $120 million a year comes out of those groups and goes off to left-wing Labor Party causes. And it hasn't been good for Australia. You know, safe schools, that would never come out if there wasn't an ideological union which has a monopoly.
So if there are hardcore union members watching who are absolutely committed and devoted to the concept of unionisation, explain to them why it's in their interest. What's in it for them to end monopolies of the union they might be in? Well,
they'll get representation at our price, basically, and get better representation. They won't get to politics if they feel that they want to support the Labor Party. It's fine. They can pay half of what they're paying the union now to an alternate one that is apolitical, and they can donate $300 to the ALP if it makes them feel good. So that's what they should be doing.
Yeah.
No, don't hold your breath. I think you'll find that most of them will just pay the $300.
Think the way they're told to.
Oh, they'll go. You know, people aren't silly. They'll go where they need to go. The solution, if you like, you know, for the Coles Woolworths thing, ultimately one of the interim steps that people like Coles could do is actually you know, encourage the setup of enterprise unions.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great chatting. If anybody's got any questions, we'll make sure they get a hold of you and perhaps put your website down so they can send you an email or just put comments beneath the videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next episode. Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next, and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.